Sorry about that. I just got that message. I wasn't recording. So, anyways, for those of you who haven't been part of this one before, I'm Chris Price. I'm one of our certified financial planners, and I really want to spend my time just teaching the community, my clients, my participants about all the things around finances. So, with that being said, let's get started. So, what is today's key takeaways? Well, today's key takeaways are going to be understanding the balance between savings in the present, spending in the present and saving for the future. We're going to try to bring awareness to spending habits, some of the things that make us spend certain ways that we do and ways that we could save something better. And we're going to explore positive impacts in our budgeting. See how that makes sense. So let's first start talking about what we call spending triggers. Now, spending triggers are those things that make us spend money that maybe weren't on our budget. So figuring out what those are and what affects us may help us actually create our savings plan in the future. On your screen here, you're going to see some of the most common spending triggers that we see. Things like instant gratification, right? That's when we just we see something, we want it immediately. Money and love. What would we not do for our family, for the ones we love, right? Loss aversion. Basically, what are we afraid of losing? So let's put extra money there. Retail therapy, leisure and boredom, keeping up with the Joneses. We've all heard that slogan where we see somebody received or bought or got something that's a little nicer than ours, and we want to make sure that we also could keep up. Impulse buying. Now, this is what I am this is one of my spending triggers, is I'll impulsively buy something. I won't take a step back and think about, do I want or not? And lifestyle creeps. The real reason to know this, or what are the things that affect you that you should want to say, you know what? I have to take a step back from this conversation, think about what it is I'm buying, and then decide if I should spend my money on it. That's the real thing. And that's what I, like I said, have to do with that impulse buying. A lot of times I see something I didn't even know I wanted, but I wanted it at that moment. So I need to take a step back and realize, is this something I want to do or not? So now let's talk about something that most people have told you before, but we hate to realize, and that's the cost of some of these spending habits. Now, when we talk about spending habits, we're talking about small discretionary expenses that we routinely do. So we're not talking about the things like your mortgages or something like that. We're talking about the things that are discretionary, the things we can control, the things we consistently do, right? They're a habit to us. Let's actually talk about what or how that actually affects us. We'll use something that most people don't realize how much it costs them, and that's how much a coffee will cost them, because it's something that we do every single day. It's a small expense that we might do every single day. So let's look at this chart here. This chart here is showing what if we bought coffee every day that was, and this is a relatively inexpensive coffee, at $2.95. I'm sure a lot of you are looking at this and saying, wow, I wish I got my coffee for that cheap. We know it could be a lot more. But let's illustrate this. In this chart, we see someone buying coffee at $2.95 every day, and one person saving that money into something that's making about 6% a year. Well, that light blue graph is, well, what if I saved that money and it made 6% a year? What would happen over the years? And that dark blue graph is, what did I actually spend? So we can look over the first 5 years that person that was spending that money on coffee spent $5,000 on coffee. But if they would have just put that into a savings account, they might actually have about $6,000 saved. So there's about $11,000 difference in those individuals just in that. And if we fast forward 10 years or even 20 years, we see how large that gap goes. And if it is 40 years, we see the significance difference here. So for those of you on the call who maybe said, I got coffee every single day I went to work, and you've been doing it for maybe 10 years, look at how big of a difference it is. You could potentially have $25,000, $26,000 extra, right? the $10,000 you didn't spend and the $15,000 you would have saved, that whole scenario. So you'd add a huge dollar amount that could help in some of the things that you may want to do. To go on the spending habits, we could review some of the most common discretionary purchases and habits that everyone has. So our common expenses like going out to eat, entertainment, cell phone, transportation, alcohol, those little like fun things that aren't really a necessary need. The average person spends almost $20,000 a year on those particular things. Now, I don't know where you might be or where someone else in this call might be, but that's what the average is, $20,000 on these discretionary spending habits. So one of the savings plans we're going to talk about here is actually a savings plan that I would rather every single person on this call tweak a little bit. This is a basic spending plan. This is usually for somebody who's having an issue with their spending, period. If you've done a good job of having a great savings rate or a great or understanding your spending plan, this may not be for you. But for those of you who feel like your spending plan is out of whack, this might be for you, this 50-30-20 plan. The goal of this is to provide structure to your finances and your budget. It helps hold you accountable. It allows for collaboration, meaning others can help with your plan if they know what that plan is. You can track your progress, and maybe it does provide a lot of insight in actually what you spend. If you create a budget and you're trying to stick to it, every time you get off, you realize that that budget may not be right or your spending may be out of whack. But what this 50-30-20 is it says 50% of your income should be spent on your needs, your savings, your insurances, your groceries, your utilities, your houses. Then it says 30% should be spent on your wants. These are maybe that coffee, maybe that going out to eat, the discretionary part of your life. And then 20% should be spent on debt. And I'm going to add to this debt/additional savings. So if you're somebody who doesn't have debt, then this should be used for additional savings. So what are some things that we need to keep in the back of our mind when we talk about savings and spending? The first one, I can't tell you how important it is. It is something that I try to tell every single one of my clients. Automate your savings. For all of you out there who have a 401k, you have an automated savings. It comes out of your paycheck. It goes right into your 401k. That automated savings is also the biggest reason why most people's 401k is their largest savings, their largest investments. But you can do that with anything. There's no reason why you shouldn't have a monthly amount going from your bank account to an investment or savings account. Next one you see here is make a wish list. The importance of a wish list is really so you know what you want to spend your money on, your hard-earned money, what's most important. If you have a wish list of certain things and you find yourself spending money on other things, maybe those other things wasn't worth what you could have got in your wish list. Be mindful in your spending. Factor in certain small things. Use credit cards wisely. Learn from others. Take advantage of free or low-cost events. All these other just kind of keep in mind kind of factors. Those first two are the big ones I want us to know, understand, feel, and do. Cool. When we do go over our budget, let's understand that there's going to be some unnecessary expenses and let's eliminate them. All right. Some of the biggest ones we see are the ones we see on our screen here. The big one I see a lot of times is fees. There's a lot of fees that sometimes we didn't read the fine print and know. Maybe our bank account has fees for certain things we do, which we don't need to do it that way, or certain account minimums that we may not be fulfilling. Maybe our credit card company has certain fees that we're unfamiliar with, but we think we're just paying the money back we spent. Subscriptions. Now, I am also guilty of this. Subscriptions sound great when we want to do that thing. There may be a particular thing that we're said, okay, hey, I love doing this. I'm going to do it for a while. I might as well have a subscription for it. But then maybe that thing only lasts for 3 months or 6 months or a year or 2 years. And we're kind of out of that idea or wanting to do that thing, but that subscription continues. Memberships are the exact same way. High interest makes sense to everybody. New versus used, gifts, brand names, delivery charge, premium apps, all these things are things that could be unnecessary based on what your lifestyle is. Now let's put all this stuff together. So let's add structure to our savings. I think that was the point of this whole conversation is how do we add structure to our spending and savings? Let's think about expenses before we spend them. I mentioned some of those spending triggers and my own being impulse. Well, let's think about that decision before we make that expense. Let's consider how expenses are categorized, right? Is this a need? Is this a want? Is this debt? Is this savings? Where does this expense categorize and how much of each should I be using within that categorization? Alrighty, so last month we did foundations of financial planning, of investment planning, of wealth management. This time we did spending and savings. It's all about the things you can control and the money that you have available to you. Next month is about investing. It's super important to understand the difference between savings and investing. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk a little bit about what is investing, what kind of investment should we be a part of. And then we're going to wrap up the year with retirement. Now, retirement is a little different than investing. You may need to invest to get to retirement, but retirement isn't about growing your assets. It's about maintaining those assets and creating an income stream from them. So with that being said, I want to thank everyone for being part of this workshop. As you know, we do one every single month. If you guys do have any questions, any comments, any concerns, or you want to schedule a time to talk 15 minutes, that QR code on your screen will get you right to where you need to be. Thank you everyone for joining, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.